Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests, and welcome to the Toledo-Lucas County Library. Now would be a great time, if you have your phones with you, to turn down your ringers. Let everyone know that you're here at this great meeting today, and if you catch anything great that our speaker, Bryce Roberts, presents on today, please take a video and share it. At this time, I'd like to ask Kurt Church to come up for the reflection, and Alex Dew is going to come up here and lead us in song. We will not have a pledge today. He's going to lead us in This Land Is Your Land.
All right. What was that email that says, move the mic, you're all right to move mic? Is that what Walter said? Good afternoon, Rotarians. For today's reflection, I'd like you to consider the noun version of the word change, the act or instance of making or becoming different, like needing cheaters to read. This time of year, as we move from the summer solstice to the autumnal equinox, you can see and feel change in the environment, with the light of the sun changing ever so slightly, the temperature dropping, and the days getting shorter. And of course, football is back. If you haven't gotten those summer projects done, you're running out of time. Change happens all the time to us and by us. As time moves on, events in our life can turn out not how we envisioned them to pass and can be disappointing. Other times, changes in life can lead to great exhilaration through new challenges. Change is hard. Change is scary. Change forces us to consider the unknown. Be resilient. Worthwhile change is slow, incremental, and sometimes unnoticeable. Today, I ask you to embrace change, to be open-minded to those around you who are different and think differently. Say yes to something in which your initial reaction is to say no, which for me is standing in front of you giving a reflection. Not an easy thing to do, I can relate. Today's speaker, Mr. Bryce Roberts, will be offering ideas on how to be a servant leader. The lessons he shares will give you the opportunity to become better leaders. Embrace that change. Let me leave you with this from John D. Rockefeller. Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great. Thank you. I'm not singing. Let me get out of the way.
We'll be singing.
Yeah.
The last thing anybody wants to do is give a past president the mic. Okay. Thank you, Cindy. So years ago, when I first joined downtown in 2005, we used to sing. Okay. We would sing a patriotic song instead of the pledge. Well, we're going to mix it up a little bit, and we're getting back to singing. So.
This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. I've roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts, and all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. This
thing they put the words up there.
Yeah, no kidding. Thank you so much, Kurt and Alex, and all of you for joining in.
Good job. Hey, Zach.
As we begin our meeting, I'd like to thank our monthly sponsor, Connect Toledo, and Rotarian Cindy Kerr. We would also like to thank Rotarian Adam Cassie of Keep Toledo, Lucas County Beautiful for being the green sponsor as he assists us in rolling out the composting initiative. Adam, at this time, if you could come up and give us a little reminder of what we're doing and how this is all going to play out, that would be great.
Thank you. Thank everybody for your participation in this. Last week we did start with composting, and the Toledo landfill is estimated anywhere between 40 to 60 years worth of life in it at the rate that we're sending garbage to the Toledo landfill. We want to extend the length of that resource as long as we can. Things there, and you all are doing your part. Last week we did have basically zero waste from this meeting that went to the landfill. Most of it was composted. Yes, fantastic. We'll notice one more change this week. We did eliminate the plastic water bottles and just went to a fillable water for your cups. That makes everything in here compostable, so there's no more plastic bin. It is all compostable, even your forks and your spoons and your knives. I've got that question a couple times. Those are a compostable product, with one very small exception, is this little guy right here. The butter packet is wrapped in foil, which is not compostable. Don't put it in your pocket. They're probably messy. There is a small trash can in the back for you if you are able to take that little tiny butter wrapper, throw it in the small trash can. The rest of everything goes in the boxes that are in the room. Thanks.
Thank you, Adam, and thank all of you for participating. And I think if we don't fix this, butter will be banned from our meetings for a while. So, if you got any suggestions, let Adam know. If anyone has a guest, could you please bring them up to the floor mic and introduce them?
Good afternoon. Haas Joseph, a pleasure to be here as always. I have with me today Mr. Jay Black. He's the CEO of Pathways, Lucas County's designated community action agency. And if we could welcome him, that'd be great.
President Cindy, with me, I have Emily Brown from Fox 36.
Hi, President Cindy. I have with me Joyce Rhodes. She is a team leader with Girl Scouts of Western Ohio. Managed to break free in the middle of all of our recruiting madness right now to come join us.
Great, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Do we have any visitors in the house? Nope. Okay, we'll move right along. Travis Tangeman is going to come up and tell us about a new committee that we're now offering at our club.
Good afternoon, everybody. A few weeks back during the State of the Club meeting, Kevin mentioned that he and I had a harebrained idea for getting some more engagement, and we decided that we like tennis. We're going to create a tennis committee. So starting this coming Monday, we will begin playing tennis on Monday evening, starting around 5 o'clock at Ottawa Park. We really just want whoever wants to come play tennis, come show up. If you want to give us an email or a text just saying you want to do it, that'd be great. But anybody who wants to come out and play, come join us on Mondays. We'll play through the month of October as long as the light will allow it, and then see the viability and go from there. But I hope everybody's willing to come out and join us. Thanks.
Thank you, Travis. And if anyone else has any ideas for new committees or clubs, please do reach out to Jackie or myself, and we can see how we could get that started. You might have seen in the Spoke that we recently restarted up the book club, and that seems to be going good as well. So if you have some ideas or suggestions, please reach out. This next week, we have Zoo Day coming up, and we have Roy Cherry here to come give us an update.
Thank you, President Cindy. Yes, Zoo Day is coming up next week already, October 6th, Thursday. So it is our opportunity to help the kids at Glendale Fieldbach come on out and enjoy the zoo. We have volunteers from St. Francis. The boys are going to be coming out again to help us with that. I do believe there is an online sign-up sheet for Zoo Day, so we'd love to see as many Rotarians come out and volunteer. And also we have a sign-in sheet, I think, with Jackie. She's got a clipboard that we can do that. So 9 a.m. on next Thursday, at the zoo, at the Anthony Wayne entrance is where we're meeting. And then St. Francis students will be there as well. And then around 9:45 in the morning, the kids from Glendale Fieldbach will be getting there. So we'll also have a lunch at the end of the time. So around 11:30, they'll do lunch. And then the kids will get ready to head back to their school. So hopefully we get a lot of participation for Zoo Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy, for the announcement and also for coordinating Zoo Day again this year. I'd like to give a shout out to Stacy Hammer. I don't see her in the house, but for leading the meeting last week while myself, Jackie, Travis, and Kevin attended the large club conference in San Jose. We met a lot of great Rotarians and picked up on a few ideas. So later this week or early next week, we'll be meeting, putting our brains together and seeing what we might be able to implement still this year possibly or next year. So thank you, Stacy. And then on another note, last week we had the FAC meeting for the first cycle of grants that we're giving out. This year, it's so great to say that we are giving out just under $260,000 to the community in grants. But unfortunately, we did not have high participation in grants that were submitted. We had a low number of them. Some of them didn't meet our criteria. Some just need a little bit more work to make them a little bit better, or maybe focus on another part of a program or a capital project that they needed. So this first cycle, we only were able to give out $33,500, meaning that we have still well over $200,000 to give out in the second and third cycle. So if you know of any organizations that are looking for funding for a new program, like I said, capital improvement, something like that, please have them go out to the website and apply or reach out to Jackie. The deadline for this second cycle is October 31st, so we have about a month to try to get more of that going. Jackie is also working with Artisha at the Greater Toledo Community Foundation to see if we can get our name out there a little bit more via their newsletter and on their website, letting other nonprofits know that we have funding available. So we would like to hear from any other organizations that are needing funding. At this time, I'd like to invite Vice President Kevin Mullen up to introduce our guest speaker today, Bryce Roberts.
Thank you, President Cindy. I want to start by reiterating Cindy's comments about the large club conference. It was an incredible opportunity to learn from other clubs around the country, to reinforce some of our best practices that we've enacted here, but also to learn and develop new ones. I created a page in my tablet called Big Ideas. And my goal for the conference was to walk away with 2 or 3 big ideas that we could enact back here in Toledo to help us better foster engagement, attract and develop future leaders for our club and our community, and ultimately grow our impact locally and across the globe. Well, I didn't just fill that page. I also added another page that I entitled More Big Ideas. And then I added a third page that I appropriately entitled Even More Big Ideas. So needless to say, when we get together, Travis and Cindy are going to be really annoyed with me because I have a lot of notes. There's a lot of great things happening around the country, and I think it's great to know that the clubs get together to share best practices. I felt very confident and felt very good about where we stand as a club and some of the things that we've been able to do over the last few years with the challenges thrown at us and how I hate the term pivoted, but how we as a club pivoted to be able to continue to have an impact in our community. There's a lot of folks around the country looking at us saying, man, I wish we'd done that better. I wish we'd done it as well as Toledo did. So that's certainly a testament to everybody in this room. And if all else failed, I figured out where they sell Rotary bow ties. And so that alone means the trip was a huge success for me. Our speaker today is Bryce Roberts, director and founder of Foxwood Counseling and Consulting. You know, when I thought of how to introduce him, I thought of reading his qualifications, bragging about his past work with the Center for Servant Leadership or Leadership Toledo, his graduation from St. Francis, UT, or Lourdes, or bragging about how he developed expertise in training, facilitation, and coaching with intentional focus on building and inspiring servant leaders. But instead, I'm going to tell you a story about the worst day of my life. It was about 10 o'clock at night. The details of how I got there don't really matter, but it was about 10 o'clock at night, and Bryce and I hadn't talked in a number of months. And I sent him a text that said, I need to talk. Bryce dropped everything, ignored the company at his house, and dedicated his attention, his expertise, and his compassion to me. Over the next few weeks and months, he provided support, again, compassion, friendship, and encouragement to help me get back on my feet. This, to me, is the embodiment of servant leadership. He listened, challenged, and collaborated with me as I navigated these unique obstacles. I can't say thank you enough for his presence during that time and for the months that followed. They say the role of a great leader is not to give greatness to others, but to extract the greatness they already have within them. Bryce is an absolute master at this, and I'm so excited for him to help us all tap into our greatness today. My fellow Rotarians, please give a warm welcome to my friend, Bryce Roberts.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Bryce Roberts. I have been very strongly instructed to stay right at this microphone, and I'm a wanderer. And so if you see me wandering around, just maybe invite me back to the microphone so the people on Zoom can hear. First, thank you for inviting me to be here. I think the world of this group. I know a number of you, some of you very well, and it's not lost on me, and it's certainly not lost by most people in our community that maintaining an ethic of service and the common good can so quickly be lost, and that it's organizations like Rotary that make sure that we don't lose that in this community. And so I'm just so grateful that each of you say yes to doing this, to doing it so often, and for the accomplishments. As someone who's worked in the nonprofit world, the significance of this group is just not lost on me, and it's an honor to be invited to be here with you. So let's get into the content, shall we? So I'm a licensed psychotherapist. That's my one aspect of my background. I opened this organization called Foxwood Counseling and Consulting 3 years ago, February of 2020. Great timing on my part. Yep. So in March, the world shut down. Great time to run a consulting business. So part of that business is a private practice. It's a consulting business. But I also have a background in leadership development. So I've worked at Leadership Toledo and our community, and I've worked with a company called the Leadership Circle, which some of you are very familiar with. And so what I've tried to do here at Foxwood is create a hub for people to grow and better understanding who they are, better sort of committing to living and leading in ways that are oriented towards good, wellness, and the common good. So I've put together a PowerPoint and a presentation that is oriented towards this premise, which is that the more self-aware the leader, the more effective the leadership. And I don't think I'm telling anybody in this room, certainly, something you don't already know by that premise. The more self-aware the leader, the more effective the leadership. What I want to do with this time I have is explain a few models, a few theories for why that is. Why is that true? If you let me, if you're interested. I don't know if does that sound good to you? I hope that's what we're doing. So if you're not into that, you might grab a lasagna or whatever. So you can see it all over the place. You know, if you look at any leadership or business journal, sometimes it's just in the margin, but what we're seeing more commonly now, especially in the last, I'd say 5 or 6 years, is heavy research, lots of data going into this concept. The millennials and Gen Z this has become like the concepts of authenticity, genuineness. This is becoming way more significant, certainly in corporate America, but in all kinds of industry. There is a desire to better live out our whole selves at work than maybe was previously articulated. I think that desire was always there, but it's being articulated more now. And so what I'm going to sort of throw up here is a core idea of why this matters and what gets in the way. There's a man named Parker Palmer. You might have heard of Parker Palmer before. But he has this concept that no matter where we go historically, no matter where we go academically, no matter where we go culturally, theistic or atheistic, it doesn't matter, that human beings, we develop always some language for this deeper part of who we are. Some of us call it the soul, the heart, the center, true self. It doesn't matter where we go. We name that there's this deeper part of being a human person. This part of us that's somewhat elusive, flows in and out of our life. Something we can get far away from. I feel really disconnected from myself, or I really lost myself in that meeting or something. And then something we can get reconnected to. I went away on that trip and found myself, or got more connected with what I really care about. You know those experiences, I'm assuming, of feeling pretty disconnected from yourself and feeling like in the zone, sort of really authentic or in alignment. Okay, I got one nod, so I feel thumbs up, yeah. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, 2 nods now, yeah, great. What we are learning over the past 30 years of research is we can prove that when that piece of ourselves is more strongly informing our thinking and our behavior, we are showing up into the world more oriented towards building things that support and enhance the common good. That whatever this thing is in us, name it what you want, that when we are connected to it more strongly, when we take the intentional time to connect to that piece of ourselves, our creativity elevates, and it elevates in a way that wants to serve others. What we generate from this place is not destructive, it's not self-serving, it is about the common good. And so self-awareness becomes imperative to I think, leadership, to effective, healthy, good leadership. So why wouldn't we do that all the time? That's like the question. That seems obvious. We're more innovative, we're more creative, and we make things that support others. So the answer is this lovely thing, our brain. So what we can tell From some research, this is based on research by Janina Fisher, who's at the bottom, but Bessel van der Kolk. We've learned a lot in the past several years about how the brain functions under threat. Okay. So when a person perceives threat, a few things happen. If you think of the brain stem, the very base of the brain, it's maybe easier to look at the image here than at my hand. That is what we call like the reptilian brain. And the reptilian brain is basic human functioning. Reptiles and above have that. It manages things like breathing, airflow, blood flow, basic human stuff. In the very center of the brain, that's what we call the mammalian brain. So mammals and above will have a similar system in there. And the one core piece of the mammalian brain, or the sort of center brain, is what we call the limbic system. And the limbic system does many things, but it manages our safety structures, how we perceive safety, how we get safety, okay? And then what wraps around that is what we call the human brain. And at the very center is the prefrontal cortex. And then the very center of that is what we call the medial prefrontal cortex, to be more specific. And the medial prefrontal cortex is where we have elevated thinking, where we have cognition, where we can look at our hand and know that that's my hand. That's elevated stuff. A raccoon can't do that. And a raccoon can't look at its hand and say, my name is Jerry, I'm a raccoon, and that's my hand. It's not able to do that. Okay, that's where all of that stuff occurs. It's also the place where like identity might occur. So a raccoon can't look at itself and say, I blew it, I should have been a bunny. You know, like, it doesn't think about that. Only we do that because of these more elevated parts of our thinking. Okay? When fear happens in the body, in the system, when we are unsure of ourselves, when we are scared, certainly, when we perceive threat, we know, we've scanned brains, you can look at this stuff, I think it's very interesting, but it's like my gig to think that that's interesting. So, but if you look at the scans, we know that when fear is active in the body, this part of our brain starts to turn down in functioning. We aren't as cognitively aware. We aren't thinking as well, okay? And another part called the amygdala, which is in the center brain, in that inner part, in the limbic system, starts to cook, starts to get really hot. And when that's turning on, it means my body is perceiving a threat. Think of the amygdala as like a smoke detector, constantly taking in sensory data, all the time, 24/7. Right now, my amygdala is taking in way more than I'm even perceiving is going. I know my amygdala knows there's people walking around out there and I'm not aware of them. Okay? And it's taking that all in and saying, is this smoke or not? Is this threatening or not? And it is wrong all the time. Because survival is the brain does billions of things, but survival is number one. If survival is even remotely on the radar, it turns on and that becomes priority number one. Okay? So our amygdala's sort of mission is to be wrong a lot so that if it has to be right every once in a while, it's in good shape. It's a strong muscle, if you want to, right? We also know that when the amygdala turns really on like that, another part of our brain called the hippocampus it looks like a little piece of licorice. When I learned that, our teacher brought in licorice for everybody, which was kind of strange because you're eating licorice. But I'll never forget it. Now you won't either, so you're welcome. The hippocampus manages a type of memory, what we call explicit memory. And that goes down in functioning as well. Evolutionarily, we think all of this happens so that if a bear walked in here right now, we wouldn't think about jumping out one of those windows. If this is on, I'm going to doubt it. I'm going to doubt that's going to hurt. I shouldn't do that. There's maybe another. I'm going to have all this cognitive functioning going on. And so we think evolutionarily this is a gift that I may get very injured, but I'm going to survive. And thank God I didn't think about it. I just went. And then the hippocampus turns down in functioning so that we don't remember doing that. Or it'd be great not to remember the whole bear thing, right? That would be nice. Okay, so that's why we think that happens. That functionality, that occurrence in the brain is necessary. We need all of that. It's an important function. If a bear did walk in here, I would need to like adjust, right? I hope I wouldn't be like, gee, there's a bear. And should we take a poll like on what we should do? Like we would leave, right? We wouldn't think. So the issue is if we apply this concept to leadership, is we use this strategy without any actual threat. There are times in leadership where we need to use this, where we need to respond. Things are scary. There's a huge problem or something, and we need to act. But often in leadership, we perceive things as threatening that aren't. We rely on old safety strategies within our limbic system, within our body, to navigate this world that's filled with complexity, and we don't need to. In fact, the thing that gets shut down when we do that is the thing that makes us more innovative, more creative, build the common good, connect to this deeper reality in myself. Okay. There's lots of theories about, or I shouldn't say there's lots of typologies about what happens when we enter the limbic system. Myers-Briggs, right? That's a typology for how our personality might deal with things that make us uncomfortable, parts of that. The Enneagram, right? I can go on, there's tons of stuff like that that help us better understand our personality and what happens when we feel discomfort. I use this model. This is from the Leadership Circle and the work of a psychoanalyst named Karen Horney, which essentially says when things feel uncomfortable, when I feel unsafe, unsure of myself, distress, self-doubt, whatever, that I can either move toward the thing that makes me uncomfortable, a fight response, I can move away from it, get out of dodge, keep my head down, that's a flight response, or I can move up against it. I can become friends with it, buddy up, attach to it, which is more of a secure attachment response, tribe, think tribe on that one, okay? The way that this model organizes it is to comply, to protect, or to control. And so what we see in leadership all the time, in the consulting side of what I do, I work, with businesses every week, and we're navigating or measuring how active these behaviors and thinking patterns are in their business, which is another way of saying, how scared are people here? How much are people overusing their amygdala and not using their prefrontal cortex? And how is that impacting your numbers? How is that impacting the ideas? How is that? I'm sure it is. So to comply are folks who, or to the attach response, are folks who, when they feel discomfort, they seek safety by attaching to others. These are the people pleasers at the office. These are the people who speak up in a meeting and then bake a cake for everybody for the next day, right? You know those types. If you like a good genuine sponge, I'm your guy. This is totally me, okay? This is also, if I start bombing this talk, right, it's not going well. I have authority figures from my life in the room, that's a reality for me. If I start bombing this, my amygdala will turn way on, this will start going off, and I will abandon what I'm doing. And I will you may not have learned anything and thought that this presentation wasn't very good, but you're gonna like me. And I'm gonna make sure, I'm gonna joke, I'm gonna compliment everybody, I'm gonna make sure we're all good, right? So that's how that typology sort of functions, is when I feel perceived threat, then I learn to comply with it, attach. The consequence of which is I abandon the work. I'm so busy managing my own safety by getting people to like me that I don't do the work very well. And you don't notice as much because you like me so much, right? It's a codependency. On the bottom is control, which is saying when I feel scared, unsure of myself, discomfort, whatever, I learn to manage that by taking over, becoming more domineering, perfectionistic tendencies. I'll do it myself. Okay? We reward this often in leadership, but it's just another type of managing things, perceived threat. And it's not using this as much. Okay? So more domineering, more intense. If I start to bomb this talk, right, well, it's not going very well, and this is the type of me that comes over, I'll like demand your attention. I know there was lasagna, but wake up. Like I might become more intense, right? Or I might walk out of here and give Kevin a huge, slap in the face because I am so mad that you even invited me to this thing and nobody was willing to listen. That's how it seeks safety, through control, through fight. Okay. And then the middle one is the protect typology, which is the person who stays quiet and reserved, distant, when they feel unsure of themselves, self-doubt, perceived threat. So these are the people who, if we're doing this, they may just start providing facts and figures, data. I'm not saying anything about what I think now. That's too dangerous. I'm protecting myself by always keeping a distance, by either physically leaving, shutting down, or making you feel kind of dumb. That's a great strategy. Okay, anyone know people like any of these? Are you identifying others? Yeah. Okay. There's codependencies that exist within all of them as well. Okay. I'm doing questions in 5 minutes. I was going to say, are there any questions? But I'm going to wait for that. Okay, so what we know is that these are functional. We need these strategies. These typologies are not bad. They're part of who we are, right? We learned them. They're based on the reasoning of a child in us. This isn't group therapy, so just calm. We're not going, no one's going to have to talk, okay? Right? But what we know is that these are formed when our brain is developing as children. We live in a world of giants, and we don't get what's going on. And we navigate that world, and lots feels unsafe to us. We're not sure what to do with all the information, and so we draw conclusions based on what we've got, and it's often irrational. And it's not our fault. We're kids, we're working with what we've got. But now we're adults, and we're using structures, systems that we formed as children to manage our lives now, and they still work. But they're limiting, and they don't use this part of our body. They don't use this part of our brain. And so the self-aware leader is an invitation to use your whole body, to address things from the past, to better inform the future, to address things from the present, and be curious about if I'm using old strategies to help me manage that. When we use these strategies, the number one priority is my survival. The brain has taken over that way, in a sense hijacked the system to say the number one priority is me. And so the questions that come out of these typologies when we're blended with them, when we're using them, are not about others. That's not their job. They're about me. How do I protect myself? And they work. But when we think beyond those, when I can become more regulated in my body and not dysregulated, when I can feel less threatened or uncomfortable, or address the things that are coming up. There's no bear in the room right now. These are just a bunch of leaders from the city of Toledo and beyond. Then I can start asking deeper questions that ask, how may I serve? How can I build something that supports other people? That's up here. And so the primary tension in leadership, in my opinion, is the tension between fear and love, between the amygdala and the medial prefrontal cortex. How's that? That's a very nerdy way to say it. I feel great about myself saying it, but that's the primary tension in leadership. What's in it for me, or how may I serve? Which is spoken a different way, fear or love. And so self-awareness and servant leadership are two sides of one coin. Servant leadership is not about putting others first. I challenge that all the time. I ran a nonprofit called the Center for Servant Leadership. Like, it's not that. It's about knowing yourself first, deeply, so that this can be active more often. And when this is active, this part of your life will show up more. Your soul, your heart will inform your decisions more and will always say, let's build something that serves the world. Let's do that with others. It's not about ignoring yourself so that you can go help people. It's about claiming yourself, knowing who you are, really diving in there so that the question, how may I serve, becomes part of how you walk. And I don't think I'm telling anyone that in here who doesn't already know that. I'm just giving you some language around it. So for me, leadership is about walking with two postures. The first, out of alignment with this piece, is that protective part of our body takes over, as it should. But the questions that we ask, our curiosities, are oriented towards, how do I protect myself? What's in it for me? And in alignment with this piece of myself, with this functioning more, medial prefrontal cortex, we naturally show up asking, how may I serve? How can I build something, build the common good? I'm so serious about this that I formed a whole program called Foundations of a Servant Leader. That program has been running for about 10 years, or I've been running it for 10 years. It started in '92 with a place called the Servant Leadership Center. Some of you may have known about, some of you were on our board. This is a year-long process, year-long program. I'm not just pitching my program here, I promise. If you want to do it, I'd love that. But the program takes a year. We form a community of people. We dive deep into what it means to be wholehearted, which is another way of saying what I've said. We talk about justice orientation, and we talk about community. And we do that in the context of a safe environment where you can ask really hard questions and come to know yourself more deeply, so that servant leadership isn't something you do on Tuesday and not on Wednesday, but something that sort of takes over your life in a really beautiful and in alignment, authentic way. This is where I work, and my contact information, okay? The bottom line of this thing is I'm giving a talk on self-awareness and servant leadership. I'm just going to summarize here really briefly. When we come to know ourselves more deeply, we empower ourselves to make choices that better affirm the world. And when we don't take the time to do that, it's a gamble. If we don't know what's going on internally, we don't have the power or the choice. With self-awareness comes the power to choose. If I don't know, I can't choose between fear or love, between alignment or disalignment. And so self-aware leaders, I think, very organically become servant leaders, which is what's already going on deeper inside. Let's see. I'm grateful to be asked to be here. This is my life. This is what I'm doing. I started Foxwood 3 years ago because I believe in this. I believe in it in all industries and it to be available to anybody. And so I'm grateful to be here to be able to share a little bit about what I'm doing and invite you to join me if it sounds interesting. I want to pause now and open up for questions. There is a microphone. I've been instructed to use the microphone. That's important. But I want to thank you again. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for listening. I'm so happy to be here with you all.
Hi. Thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate it. I love the science behind what you spoke to. I'm curious from your perspective in working with leaders, what the biggest challenge is to draw out the servant leader in each person.
Yeah. There's two, I've answered that question before, and there's two primary things. One is you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's a very common, who is this guy? What's he talking about? I don't under. And so there's a reluctancy to even go there, which I think is a protective one of those three, okay? So teaching old dogs new tricks, I would say, is number one, or people who believe that that's true about themselves. Gosh, if that's true, it's so bleak. Like we're the most adaptable species on Earth. That's why we're here. Like you can teach an old dog new trick. You might not be able to teach a dog new tricks, but I can teach you new tricks because you're not a dog. Okay, like the second one is the vulnerability. Diving deep inside of yourself. Some people have never done that. Like they've never had the invitation or the opportunity to do that, and so that can become vulnerable. And vulnerability is scary. It makes us uncomfortable. And so that's why the work I do, we create really intentional, safe places to do that, where you may not know anybody, right? And so that's safer, or you might know everybody, depending on what you're looking for. So number one is old dogs, new tricks, and number two is the vulnerability of starting that work. Does that answer? Okay.
I found myself self-examining my personalities as you were talking about the different types of personalities. Can one who may primarily be a people pleaser, for instance, change based on the environment? So you start out being a people pleaser and all of a sudden the environment you're in, you just change your personalities and either become protective or dominant or whatever you feel you need to do. Is that part of that survival mechanism that you were talking about?
Absolutely, yes. So especially if one isn't working, another one will take over. So those are just three typologies. There's a more complex one that I really like, which would be fight, flight, freeze, which is the anxiety. You know, a chipmunk freezes, and it's like, if I don't move, he won't see me, and it's ridiculous. We have that as well. And then there's, so fight, flight, freeze, attach, and submit, or feign death. If I can't get out of this room and the bear comes in, there's no way out and I'm not going to fight it, I might lay in the corner and play dead. That's lower energy. That's where our depressive functions come from, things that pull us down. So if I'm trying one and it doesn't work, the other will step in. And then we figure out what works. When it's more emotionally based, we then build that in. And so with one group, with my family, maybe I'm one way. With my kids, I'm one way, and with my wife. So we figure out what works, and then we apply it. Okay. There's a protective part in me that shuts way down. I'm an introvert by nature. By development. That's what, you're not naturally an introvert. But so there's a part of me that gets really cozy with being behind the scenes, not seen. I feel safer there. I'm not doing that right now, but I can feel it wanting to. Yeah, so, yeah.
I was wondering, of all the different leaders, and I don't mean just political, I mean theological, cultural, science, historians, whatever, do you feel in your observations are what you would determine to be self-aware, and what are the qualities that you see that they have exhibited that leads you to that observation? Thanks.
There's a bunch of C words: calm, courageous. There's all these C words that I use on another slide. I had 20 minutes here, guys, so like I didn't give you all I got. If you'd like to learn more, go to the website. Yeah, it's people who have composure is usually a great, or when they lose composure, they apologize, or they're able to be mindful of what's going on. There's a refined emotional intelligence. That answer is really long, but I think you know it when you see it. There's an elevated sense of empathy, I think, for people too. Empathy is a driver of connectivity, and so these are people who know how to pause and say, I can feel a little bit about what this person's going through, and now I feel more connected to them. So empathy, compassion, composure, courage. Those are just some items. I don't feel like I answered your question very well, but come and talk to me after if I didn't, and I'll bake you a cake. Any others? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Bryce. I was self-analyzing myself too, so I'm not sure where I'm at. Although I am nervous up here always too, so. In appreciation of your time and coming to share your knowledge with us, I'd like to give you this Historical Tales of Toledo book that was written by one of our past presidents, Clint Malk. And we also will be making a $25 donation to the Polio Plus Fund in your name.
That's so nice.
Right,
Thank
so
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wrap up our meeting today. I'd like to ask Kelly Train to come up and give us her Rotary Why.
Hi, Toledo Rotary. I just wanted to take a quick moment to share with you my Rotary Why. My Rotary Why centers around 4 different components that I think have helped me grow as a person and to live a more fulfilling life. First of all, it's friendship. I've developed so many friends and met so many amazing people in Rotary I never would have known in my entire life, and that I feel blessed for that. I also feel fortunate because one of my very best friends I met as a high school student when she was an exchange student through Rotary from Argentina. We stay in touch to this day. In fact, she even came up for my wedding 5 years ago. And I'm thankful for Rotary for that. I'm also thankful for Rotary for education. It's because of Rotary that I received a Rotary scholarship. It had enabled me to go on and continue my higher education. And I thank Rotary for that. And I thank Rotary for all of these wonderful meetings because it helps me learn a little bit more about myself and our community and our world. And I'm appreciative of Rotary for that as well. Also, I'm appreciative of Rotary because it gives me a backbone for how to live my life through that wonderful 4-way test. In fact, I have used that 4-way test when I would lecture my children when they were young. Especially my son, he could test me. Wow. And I would go through as he was getting mouthy or whatever, and I'm like, okay, let's go through this. Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? And we just run right through those and say, your argument's over, you're done. Go to your room. So the Rotary 4-way test has given me a great guide point of how I should behave in the world and with my children. And it's so cool now that they're adult children, seeing them live out those values that I taught them. And I thank Rotary for that. I also thank Rotary for that ability to serve. There have been so many wonderful committees and groups that I can't even touch. But because of what I do in Rotary and because of all of you, we're able to do some really cool things. And I feel blessed for that. And all of that together is my Rotary Why. And I really thank Rotary for helping me be a better person.
That was fabulous, Kelly, and thank you for sharing your story with us. All right, let's see. Next week, we will be meeting at Imagination Station in the evening on Monday. There will not be a lunch meeting here, so the only one we're having is a meeting at the Imagination Station, and it's an opportunity for us to get a little hands-on experience for the different projects they have going now, and to see their big, I don't know what they call it, but the movie theater. It's got a certain type of name, but we'll get to see the movie theater that they have there. And they will be offering us cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. So it won't be a regular meeting. The executive director will get up and just do a little introduction, and then it will be all networking. So we're hoping that you will join us next Monday at Imagination Station. If you haven't RSVP'd already, please get with Jackie or go online, or in the Spoke, you can find it as well to make sure you RSVP, because we will need a number for that. There are 2 committee meetings today, Environmental Services and Program Committee, and we will both be meeting in here, so try to find a corner of the room. Before I thank our guests that are here today, I was remiss in not introducing my very special guests. I got caught up in the meeting. So I would like to introduce my daughter, Brianna Smith. Those of you that were here at the Changing of the Guard, she was here that day as well. But Brianna is a recruiter for the Air Force, and she is stationed down, I don't know, I call station, based out of the 178th Air National Guard base in Springfield, Ohio. So I appreciate her coming to the meeting today. I'd also like to thank Jay and Joyce for joining us, and Emily Brown, who was here today to do a quick little interview with me and to videotape some of the excerpts from our meeting in order to do a little program with called Connect Toledo. Is that correct? Toledo Now? Toledo Now, sorry. I got Connect Toledo. And it'll be on Fox 36, and it's to celebrate our 110th anniversary. So the more that we can share about all the good that Rotary does with the community would be great. So thank you, Emily, for joining us, and thank you, Alex, too, for coordinating that. And with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.